Hey friends, after unboxing the Sony a6500, we've pitted it against the a6300 and the a7S Mark II. Some of the results will surprise you. Let's dive in. For those not in the know, the Sony a6500 is Sony's compact mirrorless camera successor to the popular 4K capable camera, the a6300. It has been lauded as a miniature a7S Mark II, albeit with a crop sensor. Those looking for a nicely portable camera that's still stocked with power, this camera is for you. On the inside, it touts an upgraded image processor and adds 5-axis internal stabilization, and even adds a touchscreen for tapping to focus. First, let's cover the ergonomics. Many complain about how the grip was too shallow on the a6300, making it uncomfortable to hold. This has been addressed with the a6500 by having a deeper grip, and boy does a little bit more grip go a long way. It is a whole lot more comfortable to hold. The additional custom button now gives a good option for those who want to mimic the Canon DSLR's use of the top buttons to control ISO and white balance. Also, it has a kinda sorta improved menu system with separated photo and video tabs, and pretty colors. It's still confusing as hell to dig into, but hey, it's a step in the right direction. Any step in the right direction is good. But let's get to the killer new features, shall we? Starting with the internal image stabilization. With such a small and light camera, it's easy to get some, jitters with bare handheld operation. As soon as you switch on the internal steady shot, however, it becomes smooth as butter. It works amazingly well, we were pretty impressed. Though I recommend only using it for stationary handheld shots, as it can't smooth out jerky pans and walking shots. Those you should just get a Movi for or something. We pitted the internal stabilization on the a6500 versus the a7S Mark II. To our shock, we saw that the a6500 was a ton smoother. Now, common sense would tell us that with a bigger camera comes more stabilization. But after seeing these results, if I'm going to shoot handheld, I'm bringing the a6500. Another star feature that made everybody drool when it was announced is the touchscreen feature. I dreamed of it bringing the amazing features of the Canon 5D Mark IV to the Sonys. When I tried out the screen on the a6500 for the first time though, I was a bit perplexed. The touchscreen at first doesn't seem to do anything at all. It doesn't control camera menu functions or navigate the user interface, only becoming responsive to taps during camera mode. And speaking of which, when you tap the screen to focus, no reticule, no nothing. Just this weird finger icon with an X next to it. Very little visual feedback. Once you touch the screen, the autofocus snaps to that location and stays autofocusing to that particular location until you tap someplace else, or tap that hand icon to cancel the touch to focus mode. Vagueness aside, the touch focus works pretty damn well, being super handy in getting some sweet handheld behind the scenes shots for our Together workshop. The feature could use a solid firmware update to improve the usefulness of the touchscreen as a whole though. On the subject of focus though, Sony said that autofocus was improved overall in the a6500. And the a6300 already had freaking amazing autofocus, so this is saying a lot. So of course we put that to the test. Panning between objects and me creepily walking closer and farther from the cameras performed about the same actually. Which means that they're both awesome. If I had to choose, I guess the a6500 is a hair faster. For sure, the little cameras performed a ton better than the a7S Mark II, which bounced around the focus point before getting tack sharp. Not a huge improvement between the a6300 and a6500, but they both kick ass still. Now let's start talking about the image. These two cameras share exactly the same sensor, but the a6500 has revamped internals. Let's first talk the big whammies, rolling shutter and low light. Let's get to pixel peeping. To test the rolling shutter, we mounted the cameras together and wiggled them. First in 4K mode. And dude, the rolling shutter is equally horrible between them. Absolutely no improvement in the a6500. But hey, the smaller sensors should still work better than the full frame camera like the a7S Mark II, right? Holy moly, the full frame camera is outperforming the crop cameras in this department? That's kind of unreal. Just for fun, we set the cameras to 1080p mode, and What the heck? The a6500 actually has better rolling shutter when you switch it from 4K to HD? Well, I guess we should just shoot in HD all the time, right? Hold up, let's go on a little tangent about that, shall we? The a6300 was notorious for being a horrible 1080p camera because it does major line skipping, and thus gives an image that is disproportionately blurrier than when shooting in 4K. So much that it was recommended to shoot in 4K all the time. The 1080p was just yuck. So let's see if the a6500 improved on that. Going out during Portland's snowpocalypse, we used the same lens and the same settings to see if 1080p was improved at all. 4K is equally awesome in details between the two. And then the 1080p is just as bad between the two. Totally a bummer. Mushy, mushy, mush, mush. What's interesting is that in 4K, the a6500 resolves a ton better than the a7S Mark II's 4K. Switch both to 1080p and the a6500 is a bucket of yucky next to the a7S's 1080p. And since slow motion is only available in 1080p, it'll be yucky too. But hey, just shoot soft stuff like this super bokeh snow shot and nobody will notice, right? Anyway, on to everybody's favorite, low light. Let's go out into the blizzard during the night and compare the a6500 versus the a6300. The two cameras have very similar grain and are identical looking up to 3200 ISO. From there on, the a6500 kicks butt by having much less color noise in the shadows, especially with the nasty purple light leak that the a6300 gets at the higher ISOs. When it comes to well-exposed areas, however, the two aren't too different. But the a6500 is definitely the better low-light camera, so shoot with that in the dark. But let's take a look at how the a6500 measures up to the king of low light, the a7S Mark II. Look, I know that this isn't a really fair fight because the a7S Mark II is both full frame and has much larger pixels, but try and stop me. Working our way up the ISO chain, the noise differences at 4K are pretty imperceptible through 1600 ISO. At 3200 ISO, there's a smidge more noise in the a6500, but it'll only bother the pixel peeping geeks. At 6400 ISO, you start noticing some clear noise difference, with the a6500 getting splotchy, while the a7S is just chillin'. At 12,800 ISO, the a6500 is starting to sink into a sad pool of ugly, while the a7S is rocking away. And surprise, surprise, hit 25,600 ISO and the a7S is totally whooping the a6500's buttocks. Now usually we would end the review there, but there is a little problem that plagued the a6300, and that is overheating. Some users can get as little as half an hour of recording time in room temperature before the camera shut down. Sony addressed this in the a6500 by adding an option to raise the threshold of overheating shutoff to high, and boy does this help a ton. The half an hour of runtime gets doubled to an hour or higher. If you shoot super long interviews or events more than an hour, however, well, I guess you could bring an ice pack or something? To sum up, the a6500 is an amazing camera that improves on the already awesome a6300. It's absolutely worth the extra $500 to have the improved ergonomics, amazing image stabilization, and handy touchscreen for focus, and improved low light performance. If you already have an a7S Mark II, it's a great B camera to have in your kit. Got some of your own experiences with the a6500 you'd like to share? Or have a question or two? Ask away in the comment section below.